Good evening, everybody, and welcome to your Tuesday night installment of SPTV live from London. And where in the world are you, Marcus?
I'm from New Orleans. I'm in New Orleans. I'm from Lake Charles.
Nice. So we're live streaming on my channel, and I believe on your channel too, right?
Yeah, we're streaming on both channels.
Fantastic.
Binary streaming.
I love it. So I'm going to put a link actually
What?
to your Marcus.
Okay,
Where
thank
are
you.
you? Here, subscribe to Marcus. If you're watching this on my channel, go and show Marcus some love and watch the same stream from his channel if you like. There's a link to his channel. He's in Theta. We're going to talk about...
Yeah, I'm in Theta.
We're going to talk about our Scientology journeys, our recovery, and get into it. It's going to be, I reckon, a fairly deep conversation. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show, I suppose. We do have the live chat on the side, so we'll be pinning comments throughout. My lovely mother is here in the live chat. Saying hello. She makes a rare appearance in the live chat. I know she watches videos, but hello, mum. Go and show her some love if you're in the live chat as well. Marcus, do you want to introduce yourself? Who are you? Why are you here?
Well, okay. This feels like an NA meeting.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm
my
an
name.
ex-Scientologist.
Yeah, hi. My name is Marcus Lee Sawyer, and I am an ex-Scientologist. And I have
hello, Marcus.
Hi. Hi, Marcus. The ex-Mormons are like, hi, I'm an ex-Mormon. I also am known under a pseudonym, Devonte Lafleur, which is actually my biological father's name. It's like where I'm a Lafleur, so I use that for my music stuff. I'm also known as Crow Bennett, which is like a gamer tag that I've had for a long time, and I work with other studios through a network called Octane Sound, and we do publishing through a couple of different companies here in Louisiana. And I do trauma community broadcasting. This is my broadcast console here, and I talk about stuff, the traumatic stuff that we go through in Scientology and in domestic life and in other religious groups. And it's good to talk about that kind of stuff, work it out. It helps other people. I've found, I've been doing this since 2015, so on and off there have been periods where I've had to just kind of like duck out, and get some space as I heal.
Absolutely. That's what I love about this SPTV community is we're all going through our own journeys, and there's a lot of similarities, but everyone is different and everyone has their own recovery journey. And seeing real life vulnerability and emotions and people sharing their honest truth and their stories on YouTube is nice to see. People go on that recovery journey just from an educational point of view for perhaps people who haven't had a Scientology experience, but also for those who have, because it shows you're not alone. And seeing other people talk about their experiences helps. For me, for example, it's like, oh, that story is way different or wild compared to what I went through, but I recognize things in that and the recovery, and it helps you come to terms with it and figure out what's going on in your own head. And that's what I love about SPTV, and it's great that you're a part of that. So guys, if you're watching this, go and show Marcus some love. You're not monetized yet, are you? So let's try and get you to 1,000 subs and some watch hours. Go and subscribe to Theta. And hopefully we can get you to share your videos with more people, right?
Yeah, I mean, whoever needs it, right? Like it's that's to me that's the thing is like the quality, it's like quality over quantity, but quality and quantity is actually great, you know. Like people whoever there are people that, just like you said, have things that they probably need to hear, have maybe even told themselves internally that they haven't validated externally. That happened a lot with me watching some of the people that came before, you know,
Yeah.
self. And because this is no new thing. This has been going on for a while. And I feel incredibly lucky that we have the ability to do this, you know?
Yeah.
So
100%. Do you want to talk, maybe for those of you who don't know who you are, do you want to maybe give a brief summation of your story in Scientology? How, like, you know, were you born into it? Did you join? You worked on staff? Just in a nutshell, so people have a frame of reference for you.
yeah, there's a lot of the information, as you said, on the channel, but in a nutshell, I was what they call in Scientology a heavy drug case. And I got in through what they call the purification rundown route, or the, drug route. And my brother also joined. We were offered uh, free passage to the West Coast to go play music and be Scientologists and help other people get off drugs. And that ended horribly for me. But my brother got out before anything really bad happened with him. Um, there's a theme too for our whole life. But yeah, in a nutshell, we were active from 2002 to 2005 on staff, and from 2005 on up to, I think, when Mike Rinder left, Travis was pretty much done. He paid his freeloaders debt and was done.
Travis is your brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, he wrote it off in his mind. Like, that was the thing in his mind that was connecting him, the only thing connecting him left to the church. So once he paid it off, he left.
Marcus, sorry to interrupt. Someone has just said, FYI, I switched over to Theta and can't hear Alex on his stream.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, we're having technical difficulties. Now I should be able to.
All right, Holly Mace, tell us now if that sorted the problem. If you can hear me speaking, just drop a message, let us know.
Alex at all? Or is this what it looks like?
Yeah, I know that's what it looks like. That's the camera he wanted.
Oh, okay, but I mean, like, we're seeing.
Yes.
And no, I have it on mute, so they're not getting feedback. But we can't hear him talk at all.
Yes,
we're just hearing
that's
I think
what
we
they-
just fixed that. Yes.
Oh, okay. Just
Well, maybe we did, maybe we
All
didn't.
right.
Okay.
It's supposed to be.
Let us know. Technical difficulties. Apologies, guys.
Well, we're
let us-
simul streaming instead of
Yeah.
like piggyback streaming, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So sorry, carry on, Marcus, with your story and your brother and
Right.
Mike Rinder leaving, and where he was at.
yeah, that was around 2008, and for me, it was a little longer. I started doing my doubt condition, which is a thing you do in Scientology to decide whether or not you should stay in or leave something. And in this case, I was applying it to Scientology. And when I finished that, that was around 2012, 2013. After I saw Going Clear, is whenever that was it. I finished my doubt. I sent it to the Baton Rouge mission, and I got Kameved, which is like a Nazi tribunal type thing. And I did not go, and I haven't heard much from them since. Still get mail, of course, sometimes, but um, I made my first video in 2015 in May, and it went like super, a lot of views, and it scared the crap out of me. So I deleted it, but then I re-uploaded it, and then because I think it was Chris Shelton, Aaron Smith Levin, some of the Jerry Armstrong videos, Mike and Marty had interviews out. And I felt safe to do that because Mike and Marty were making videos. You know what I mean? Like, if Mike and Marty, they're going to be the primary target of any kind of crazy OSA harassment stuff. And so I felt safe enough to do that. But
Yeah, absolutely.
that's the end
People
of
are saying they still can't hear me on your channel, by the way.
Well,
So while you figure that out, Peggy P So Special has asked, are you talking to the side of Marcus as we're seeing him? Yes, this is the one camera angle Marcus has because of the setup of his studio. But but we can see them. It's okay.
I mean, I can connect via Video Ninja.
Well, it's up to you. I'm not fussed. We can hear you and we can see you. But yeah,
But they
they can't
can't
hear
hear
me on
you
your
on my
channel.
channel.
Apparently not.
Yeah. I am a broadcast. I did do broadcast engineering, so I can fix this and have the conversation at the same time. But everyone's going to have to be patient because it's technical difficulties. So.
That's fine. In the meantime, if you're watching it on my channel, you should be able to hear both of us. And then once we fixed it, you can head over to Marcus's channel. So, what you were saying just there about Marty Rathbun, Mike Grinder, and so on, speaking out publicly. That was what I consider the start of the kind of SPTV phenomenon that we see today, because Scientology has a history of fair game, of harassment. It doesn't like critics. It doesn't like people speaking negatively of Scientology, and it will employ any and every trick in the book it can to silence, intimidate, and suppress its critics. So there's always been a lot of scared, fear in speaking out about Scientology, because it's known that they will come after you, and the policy actually is to destroy critics, right? And do everything they can to destroy your life, whether that's try and get you sacked in your job, or try and get you convicted of a crime, or whatever it is, to make your life a living misery until you stop speaking publicly about Scientology. So for decades, people haven't had the courage to speak out, and they've just left quietly and got on with their lives. And I think when Mike Rinder left, particularly, that was a huge moment in Scientology history, of like this senior executive has left and is speaking out. And that started the ball rolling, I believe, in recent times, of people thinking, maybe I can speak out. And now we're in this place where Chris Shelton started his YouTube channel, Aaron Smith-Levin with Growing Up in Scientology, and now many more. There are over 40 former Scientologists on YouTube now. There's over 50 SPTV channels, if you include people who've never been in Scientology but talking about it as a topic. And it's showing people that Scientology can't come after everybody, and it's okay to speak out. And even if they do come after you, so what, right? You are entitled to your own opinion, your belief, and to share your experiences. And I get contacted all the time from people saying, just hearing a British voice has been good, because there hasn't been much of a British voice. So that has helped people come to terms and start speaking out. And people speaking from a city level church rather than executive management. Again, people relate to that. And we have people like Jeff, PTS for Life, speaking out from Vancouver org. And it's just the more people that speak, the better. And I think it's just encouraging people to shed light on this. And that's a good thing, because it's showing what Scientology really is. It's not just this crazy American cult that's, doing stuff in America.
It's
These things happen worldwide at every level of the organization.
Yep. That makes me think of that song, ZZ Top. We're bad. We're nation, except worldwide. Worldwide.
Absolutely. So what was your post in? So you were working at Baton Rouge, right? Is that the org you were staff in? What was your post? What was your life like?
That was where I was recruited.
Okay.
And we didn't do much staff training there. We moved to California. We moved to Ventura, and we trained there. And then we were deployed to Melrose.
Okay. And what was your post? What were you doing?
I was the FSM-IC.
Okay, so FSM is field staff member, IC is in charge. So you were Div 6, right? That's public facing. So I was also Div 6, Director of Public Book Sales.
Sec is I think on the org board, Div 6C secretary. FSM IC fits under that. And so, my job was to talk to the field, which is your parishioners, and find people to recruit into Scientology, people to help with Scientology, to find. It's almost like a public version of ethics. When you do a search and discovery in ethics.
Yeah.
Do we need to explain that?
Probably. Go on.
Okay, so search and discovery is whenever you are looking for someone in your life, or a church member is going to basically interrogate you to look for someone in your life that's hostile or antagonistic towards Scientology, so that you can either then handle or disconnect from them. That's a search and discovery. And but you could do this with public too, where you're doing essentially in Div 6, which is the public division. You're doing a search and discovery to locate potential Scientology people that could be uh, gotten onto what is called a first service start, and into the organization as a public, and then possibly evaluate them for staff. And then if they're there for any amount of time longer than a couple of months, then they may be evaluated for the Sea Org as well.
To give you guys an idea of, so this is a recruitment tactic, right? So in Scientology, there's an element of dissemination, because when you're indoctrinated and you're on staff, you fully, genuinely believe this is the best way of helping people. And so you naturally are going to want to get as many people as you can to buy a book, to get on course, to potentially join staff, do whatever you can, because you think this is going to help humankind. So part of the field staff member tactic is kind of like an MLM. It's like, well, you're a paying public. Well, you want to help other people, right? So why wouldn't you, help recruit people? And there's a commission that you earn off the sale of any books or courses that you do, and you're basically encouraged to go out and disseminate. Which all sounds like very familiar with a lot of religious groups, and just a general sales tactic. But this is the extent to which it goes. I actually have, this is a document from my time in staff, which is my prospects list. It says who and how to bosh, because we used to call book selling boshing, right? Let's go bosh them, right? Let's go sell them a book. And it's literally a list of all the people that I knew at the time. It's 3 pages long, right? And it's a step-by-step guide of like what I'm gonna do to turn this person into a
Into a
Scientologist.
Scientologist. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
for example, it's,
Oh boy.
step one, I'm not going to say any names, but step one would be enlighten him on the purification rundown. So tell him what it is. Step two, find his ruin. Alcohol was previously, but he has a handling for that. He's currently in a good place and getting better. So what's ruining his life? And then I've written relationships here. And then the next step, handle any black PR, which is any negative press he's heard about Scientology, or any opinions he's come across that aren't wholly positive about Scientology. Next step, tour of the org. And then the next step, book sale. And literally, it goes through
That's
this.
1, 2, 3. That's like boom, boom, boom.
Everybody I knew, friends and family, step by step, what I'm going to do. There's this other person here. Right, this is someone who'd been in the org a little bit. Write a report asking what the situation is. Find out the next step and if there's any injustices that have occurred. Get help in how to handle her failed purpose. Find her ruin. Get her to come out as an FSM book selling. And then find out what area she would enjoy doing most to get her to help out in that area. And the product is staff member, join staff.
Yeah, and the 2D flows can be strong on that. Go out and book sell and stuff. Like,
oh yeah, 2D flows. The 2D is the second dynamic in Scientology. For those of you watching, that life
some
is
know, some don't.
Yeah, and I always like to assume that people watching this for the first time, so just to make sure, life is split up into 8 dynamics. The first dynamic is self. The second dynamic is sex, family, relationships, and then you have the third dynamic, which is groups, and it goes on like this throughout the different areas of life. The 8th dynamic is, the God dynamic, effectively, the spirituality. So the second dynamic being sex, love, relationships. If you're 2D flowing someone, that means you're flirting with them, basically, because you want to, give them a message that perhaps you want a relationship, or it's a family, sex and love thing, right? And this was used as a tactic to recruit people all the time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, come sell some books with me.
I talked yesterday. I interviewed. I don't know if you saw it, but Rachel, who was at Gold, she was filming all the events and doing all the
Right.
promo and stuff. She was really cool. I spoke to her yesterday on my channel, and we were talking about to be in Div 6, the public-facing part of Scientology, the recruitment. There is definitely a visual part. Not any like there are qualifications to work in Div
Yes.
6, and there is a level of attractiveness, of personality, outgoing type person in order
Yeah.
to be in that position because of that flirty
Apparently.
part of it.
Yeah, apparently. I didn't really thought about that till later, but Travis and I and all the people in Div 6, like, you know, they were we were the people that they wanted out representing, you know,
Mhm.
like looking cool, because Melrose was supposed to be like a hip, cool place where you could be sort of like your second gen Scientologist, living in Hollywood that doesn't want to get harassed at the Class 5 org,
Mhm.
ASHO or LA Day, which is American St. Hill uh,
Organization.
organization. Yeah, SH, St. Hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Los Angeles Day, LA Foundation, which is Knights. And even CC, there were second gens at CC that were like, because they would send Sea Org members to CC to do cycles of action and
CC being
register,
Celebrity Center, right?
right? Celebrity Center International. They would send people from, say, ASHO or LA Day or even AO over to, which is Advanced Org, which where you get your OT levels, and they would send them over. Yes, dear.
I think we're still having technical difficulties. Someone says they can't hear me on your
Well,
screen.
I just stopped the stream.
Oh, okay. Someone
Yeah.
says I can't hear Alex on the other stream.
Well, that's because there's no stream going on. I'm just gonna
I see.
add this to my
Yeah,
future
I'll
on
send you the
later.
file and you can upload it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, Celebrity Center, right? We're talking about that. So a celebrity in Scientology is not like a celebrity. It's anyone who's creative in the arts, a musician, anyone like this is deemed as special in Scientology. So there's a whole separate building for the servicing of these kinds of creative people, where they're meant to receive the best of the best servicing and get extra
Yep.
special treatment because it's a big PR thing. If you look after these people, some of them might make it really famous and then be a
And
good.
then you got a big boom cash cow. Yeah.
Precisely. So your experience as a musician must have been quite interesting, going from being a public Scientologist to working for Scientology, right? What was that like?
Sucked. I mean, I always wanted to play, and I did do an open mic night. We hosted that every Wednesday. I had brought my PA system with me. So Travis and I, my brother and I, got to jam every week. So that was probably the best part about it, but it sucked. I mean, because every other time that wasn't designated for music, like, don't pick up a guitar and play. Well, Tom, the mission holder, can pick up a guitar any old time he wants and play and mess around and come up with the uh you know nothing really. He never really came up with anything. But yeah, like your liberties, your rights, your thing is, everything is so segmented and scheduled, and if it's not, then it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's no sitting around doing nothing. You need to be doing something, clean something, go sell books, get GI, that's gross income, get some FSSs, first service starts, um, high pressure, and then the every week we get to jam, and that was probably the best part of it, was the every week open mic night.
We had something similar in London, not the open mic night jamming thing, but just the idea of going out book selling was fun, right? Because everyone in the org was young and we were all kind of like high energy, and we used to love going
Meet
out
a
and
lot of
book
cool
selling.
people.
Because it was cool people, get to meet different people from all walks of life and spend time with your mates, and we'd just like we'd have a good time, make it a game. And it was kind of like, even though it was really important because it was book selling, that was my stat, it was fun.
Yeah.
Like, it was out of the org, it was going out and,
I've
doing
had fun
crazy
selling
things.
books.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
right. I mean, I've had fun. Me and Travis we got a target one time to go sell, and this was to get a CSW approved, completed staff work, so that you can go and do something that you want to do instead of doing everything they want you to do. And the CSW is to go to band practice. And they were like, yeah, sure. Go sell 30 books on Hollywood and Highland. And we had like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and just getting there is a pain. But I hauled my ass down there in that big van and parked, and we went out there and we sold 30 books. And I called them on my little Nokia thing. I think that was the era, the Nokia phones. But I called and I said, boom, got it. And they're like, you got the money? It was like drug dealing almost. It was like, you got the money? Yeah, okay. Bring the money back, then you can go. So yeah, but that was fun though, because it was a challenge. It was I don't know why. It's just sort of like selling Kirby vacuum cleaners, because I did that once too, and that was kind of fun and exciting. But you only want to do it so long, for me, it's like, no, I don't want to sell books.
Yeah. And what was that like in terms of recovery? Because we've talked a lot offline about recovery and the similarities in our journeys and all of this. Like, when you're working for Scientology, a thing that a lot of people don't understand is it becomes your life. It's your purpose. Like, this is what you're doing. It's everything to you. You are clearing the planet. You're getting ethics in.
Hmm.
So when you come out of Scientology, it's really hard to adjust to things like, what's your purpose in life, but also like that production thing. Because in Scientology, it's like you've got to always be doing something. You've got to be working, you've got to get your stats up, and next week your stats have to be higher. So when you come out, it's kind of like it's built into you to always be productive, and it's really hard to get to the point where you're like okay with just sleeping in or playing a video game, or
Oh
like
God,
not
the guilt,
producing
the
something, right?
guilt.
Guilt,
There's
exactly.
so much guilt for just doing something nice for yourself. Like, I still, I still have problems with that. I feel guilty, and it's not even related to Scientology, I don't think, anymore. It's just like, it's almost like it got baked in. It's like, well, I should be doing this, but I'm doing this, and I feel guilty about that. But I want to do this, and I am enjoying it, but I still feel like I should do that. It's complicated.
That level of overthinking though is something I totally relate to, because
Right.
you're in Scientology, you think about every possible outcome of every single action you do, because you're trained to think with your analytical mind.
Mm.
And so this overthinking, like, I told the story a while ago, I can't remember if I told you, Marcus, but like, this is one of the things where I realized how deep the programming went in my brain. Because it was about a year ago, I was on an aeroplane going to Atlanta, funnily enough, and the flight attendant came up and was like, "What would you like for dinner?" There was like a chicken option, like a beef option, or a veggie option, right? That was it. I couldn't for the life of me decide what I want, because in my
Oh
head I'm
Lord.
thinking, well, okay, how am I going to feel if I order the chicken one, right? And I'm imagining that I'm sitting there, I'm eating the chicken. Yeah, that's quite nice. Okay, cool. How do I feel if I have the
Just make a
beef option?
decision, man.
Okay, well, yeah, exactly. And then I'm trying to evaluate
For God's
how I'm
sake.
going to feel based on this decision. And ultimately, I would have been happy with any of the options. It didn't matter. But because you in Scientology have to make a decision, you can't be indecisive. You have to. So you
Certainty.
overthink it. And then I was like, holy cow, like, this is just give me any, like, whatever, it doesn't
You
matter. But
pick. I don't
think
know.
you think everything through in that level of detail, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I think that when you study that stuff and you live in that culture and you operate in that culture, as you operate in that culture with the sleep deprivation and food and dietary problems and sleep deprivation, for long periods of time, it's you get this primacy effect that goes on. That's the term. It's definitely Googleable for your listeners if you check out the primacy effect. And that happens in almost every major religious culture.
What is it? Can you explain it to us briefly?
Well, it's whenever, briefly, it's when if we say it enough times, it becomes true.
Right.
Yeah. So, and so and then you have group dynamics, group sort of reinforcement, the working in teams so that one can sort of check the other. Check partners was what the Heaven's Gate culture had, and they were there to make sure that you didn't leave. And twins in Scientology is a similar thing. The Crusade Brotherhood in Catholicism, I think, is very much like that. And the primacy effect is very common. And when you spend a lot of time in those kind of groups that are highly coercive, and that's beaten on you so hard in those altered states, I will call them, because you are sleep deprived, you're malnutrition, and you're overworked. The primacy effect. Well, no case on post. Don't go PTS. Don't talk to SPs. Don't watch this. It turns into this big long laundry list of things that you're supposed to remember and do or not do.
You have to one thing that I've thought about recently is you don't ever, even though Scientology is meant to make you present, right, in present time, right, and bring you to reality, the one thing you don't really do in Scientology is actually look at what's right in front of you. Like
Ain't
you
that
saying that
something?
just now made me think, I remember a time when I was out book selling in London and I had no money, right? I had enough money to either go and get like a burger from
A
McDonald's
sandwich. Yeah, I was
or
going to say
get the
some kind
bus home,
right.
right? And I had to
And
decide
that's
which
by
one I
design,
wanted.
I mean, it's so by design.
But the thing is, that's not a good place for anyone to be in, to have to decide food or travel home, right?
No.
But I didn't at that moment in time look at it and think, hold on, I don't have any money because I'm not working in a job that makes me money. Instead, I'm spending all my time in Scientology. I'm selling books, making money for the church, not myself. And this is a bad situation because you're thinking, I'm doing good. I'm happy right now. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying myself. I'm living in the moment. Who cares if I have no money? What you're not doing is looking at what's right in front of you. And it's not until you leave that you're like, hold on, how did I completely glaze over the fact I couldn't afford to eat?
Yeah. But that first part you said, actually, money is not, like that's not going to do it for you. So that on that aspect, that's correct. But the glazing over all the other stuff is quite remarkable, because I think that the frog boiling analogy is overdone and it's cliche, but it's so true because it's a gradient, it's a spiral. I think it's like it's just a downward spiral, but you think you're going up. You're really going the opposite way. And then when you realize, or sometimes it's too late, or sometimes it's too late to find a reasonable way to get out. You have to really work hard to get out, as ask Mark Headley.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely. What was your experience like kind of processing this and going on that journey, leaving and figuring all of this out? Because you don't just, when you leave, suddenly it all falls well, some people do, but most people don't just leave and it all falls into place and you realize everything that happened to you and you're a different person. Like, it takes time to kind of unpick this stuff, right?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Well, there's some things that I could comment on, and then there's a bit that I have to watch what I say because of my therapist told me, because we're doing
Sure.
EMDR right now, which is a whole thing in itself regarding Scientology, because EMDR feels kind of like auditing. But like I was having to unpack a whole bunch of stuff from uh, when I got into Scientology. Like I was needing to unpack a whole lifetime of domestic stuff. And instead I went into Scientology and just trash compacted that even tighter into like a new density of a neutron star worth of uh, emotional suppression. So yeah, I'm still doing it, man. Like it's an ongoing process, and there's no end in sight, really. Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing because everyone,
Mm-mm.
life is a journey, right?
There's
You're always
progress that's
moving
being made. Like,
progress.
yeah,
Exactly.
just
And
major progress.
I think for me, it's like it's recognizing this stuff, right? Like, talking about emotions just there, right? In Scientology, you're trained to confront emotions, and most emotions are bad, part of your reactive mind. You're trying to get rid of them and think rationally with your analytical mind. So they make you believe what you're doing is confronting the emotion and
But you're
purposefully,
actually
consciously
blocking it.
dismissing it. But what you're actually doing is pushing it down.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is you don't realize that that's what you're doing. And it's a journey that I've been on to realize that I still do that subconsciously. And sometimes I recognize it in the moment, and sometimes I don't recognize it until afterwards. But that's just the journey that you go on, right? And
Yeah.
that's the effect Scientology had, because it literally programs your brain to think in a certain way, process information, and it's not an overnight fix.
Nope. And it didn't help my brother and I's situation in leaving because our families thought that, hey, Scientology's not that bad. It got both of our sons off drugs, and they didn't
Mm,
know about any of and they didn't go digging or nothing. I didn't, except for our biological father. But that was early. As soon as we got involved, he started researching and finding all kind of stuff. And bugging my cousin, who's a seminary student who's interested in theology and philosophy and stuff, to go to libraries and use computers to figure out what is Scientology. And he had this packet of information that he gave my dad, and he was the only one that would uh, attempt to do his own recovery properly, because you don't just tell someone hey, you're in a cult, you know.
mm.
That usually doesn't work.
Especially if you're someone like you or I who worked in Div 6, right? Like, I spent
Yeah.
all my time in Scientology selling books, confronting people in the public on the streets. So every single day, without fail, someone would come up to me and tell me I was in a cult, tell me you believe in aliens and Xenu, or come up to me and kind of gently pull me to one side and say, look, if you need help getting out, like, just blink twice, I'll help you. Just leave with me now. And I was always like, you guys are
Are nuts.
insane, because I voluntarily come here every single day. No one's chained me up to anything. I've heard all these stories of abuses and space aliens and all this stuff, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. I'm a staff member. I would know if that stuff was going on. I am not here against my will. I am in control of my life and I feel great. I'm enjoying myself. And if I wanted to leave, no one's stopping me. Just walk out the door right now. But what
Yeah.
you fail to realize is, well, yeah, but at the same time, I didn't have enough money to pay for lunch that day. And I've been working on 3 hours sleep because I was out book selling the night before. And I'm terrified that if I don't sell 5 books today, my stats will be down tomorrow. And then I'll be in trouble for that. But you
Yeah.
don't put that together in your head. You just think these people coming in telling you these things are just, well, actually, I need to do better at my job so that you don't have that opinion. So actually, that's a challenge. Let me sell you a book.
That's so true. What you said made me think about when I was first doing like training for Division 6 stuff with Monica at Ventura Mission. And I was sleeping in the van because the staff house was full, or they had an auditor who had came in and basically took my bunk spot. And I started writing a song years later. I revisited it, and it's called Reconsider. And there's a line that came to mind when you were talking about uh, what what you were just speaking about. It says freedom is just a step outside, but we lock the door before we arrive. So it's like you can get up and walk out, like, theoretically,
Mm.
but you're tied to this whole thing, like, inextricably, in a way to where you know you can't just walk out.
Because a prison, prison of belief, right? It's the
Yeah.
prison of the mind. It's you put yourself in this. And also, a lot of the stuff you do in Scientology, you do to yourself. Like when you are studying, you're applying study tech and, you're reading policies. Like you are made to believe that you're the one in control and no one's telling you what to believe in. There's no acts of prayer or faith or belief and worship. It's you reading stuff and you applying stuff and seeing that it works. So when someone says, you're being brainwashed or you're being this, blah, 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 whatever it is, the answer in your head is like, no, I'm not being anything because I'm the one doing this. I'm applying Scientology. No one's doing anything to me.
Yeah.
And so it's very well constructed, but
It is.
that takes a lot to deconstruct in your mind over time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like any other, I would say it's like any other coercive type of control that's practiced in military or domestic, like really bad domestic type situations, violent situations, where you need to maintain order and control, and then power corrupts. So, like, there are situations where control is needed, and you even hear that in Scientology. Can you think of a time when control was a bad thing? And all these questions that they try to get you to conceptualize control as good. Control is good.
8C, right?
Infinite control is the
Yeah.
goal in Scientology.
Yeah.
Infinite control. And when you say, like you did, it's a prison of the mind, and I think about, freedom is just a step outside, but we lock the door before we arrive. We lock that door in our mind already. And so, yeah, you can't, even though physically you can go out, you're still going to be stuck with that. And deconstructing it, I've been in therapy since 2015. And it started slow because I was, as a former Scientologist, pretty averse to anything they were going to say. I felt like, I in 2015, I was willing to go, but I still would question everything that they would talk about, everything that we would do. Like the first interview, they're like, "This is just an assessment." I'm like, "Well, what are you assessing?" And like tit for tat. And some of these psychologists or therapists were like, referring me to other people. So I had to
I
go back
think
to my child psychologist.
Yeah, I
and
think this is a good example of how Scientology gains control over somebody because it's not just the belief system, if you want to call it that, or the application of the tech. This is a really good example, right? Scientology teaches you that psychologists, psychiatrists, the mental health field are all part of this big conspiracy, big pharma to try and control people. They're the cause of all evil, and therapists and so on
it's a
don't
huge
actually want to
conspiracy.
help you. They exactly, yeah, they don't want to actually help you. They want to control you,
And they've been
manipulate you, and
and they've
so
been
on.
and they've
So
been
this
doing
is
it for 1,000 trillion
yeah,
years.
so this is implanted in your brain that this is what they do. So even though you've left Scientology and you're not actively applying it or believing it or thinking about it, you're seeing a psychologist in front of you, and all you've ever heard about psychology is this stuff. So Scientology is still controlling you without you needing to believe or apply anything. And
Yeah, it's
this is
crazy.
how it has such long-lasting effects, because it's then impacting your life without even realizing it because you've been conditioned to believe something. Um, how did you get over that hurdle? Like, what is it that gave you the confidence to carry on and prove yourself wrong? Like, was there a seed of doubt in there? Like, why did you think maybe what Scientology told me isn't quite correct? Maybe these people can help me.
The initial thing was the reprinting of the books in 2003 and
Was it?
4. Yeah,
Yeah.
2003 and 4. When that shit started, I was like, that was the first thing. And when I went to the Shrine Auditorium events, I'm like, I want to throw up. Because they were standing and sitting and standing, and they clap. The first time I ever saw that was at Baton Rouge Mission, and they had a service, and they were clapping at the statue. And me and
I
Travis,
always found that weird. Even like when I'd signed my SEAL contract and was like ready to go move to flag as the most dedicated Scientologist, I still found it weird that we clapped at a statue of someone that died 40 years ago.
being raised in the South as a Catholic, and like that was like beat into you pretty early. You do not worship false idols. And even though that was the trigger for me, I was not religious at that time when I got into Scientology. But I'm like, they're clapping at a fucking statue. Like, what? So, but then later the books, I was like, okay, the guy that's in charge now, he's just gonna be like, and I got in trouble for bringing this up. And why is it? Because they talk about source and source material. And if it's not source, if it's not, show me where it's written is a common phrase on staff and in public, whatever.
Source meaning LRH, because he's the source of the technology, right? And when I say source, Americans get confused because there's source and there's source, SAUCE and SOURCE.
Sauce.
So he's not
Source.
source, he's source.
I like that.
He's the source of the tech, right?
Oh Lord, yeah. He's the spicy gravy.
Yeah. So the
Pour the sauce
policy
on.
the policy is like what he written is true, it is fact, and you don't deviate from that, you don't interpret it, you don't change it. So you can't give verbal tech. I spoke about this on my video with Rachel yesterday, where someone said to me, they're like, you getting in the way of it's a suppressive act to get in the way of a gold shoot, which is filming of a Scientology promotional video, and I didn't like it. I was kicking up a fuss, and they said that's a suppressive act, and I said, show me where it's written. Because
hey buddy, high five there, because I used to say that all the time. Show me where it's written. If they said to do something I didn't want to do, show me where that's written. Show me where it's written that I need to pressure wash all this crap or get on my knees and scrub the floor with mineral oil. Show me where it's written.
Yeah. But no, go on, carry on. You were continuing. You were talking about LRH being source and idolizing a
false idol.
person.
So that was probably the first one, because that happened within weeks of being there, and I wasn't interested in their courses. I was just doing the detox. And Travis started doing a course. They got Travis to do one, the ups and downs course. And then they used Travis to sort of get me into doing a course. And, there's truths in there. There's lies too, but that's how you get people into these big things. There has to be kernels of truth.
And the very introductory levels of Scientology are beneficial. They are helpful, right? I will always stand up and say that because it is the truth. And people might come back at me and give me shit for that. And I think a lot of the community of never-ins, people who've never had a Scientology experience, that are watching and learning, when they're first new to the channels and they're just learning about it, it's kind of hard to understand how someone who's been in Scientology and come out can say that there are good bits, because overall it's harmful, it's bad. How can you defend Scientology? I'm not defending Scientology. I'm trying to explain how it works, right? Because to get people in, there has to be little benefits, and it is. And a lot of this stuff actually comes, LRH stole from other texts, where it's just common life principles,
almost all of it he stole from it. And not to interrupt, but it's also helpful to get people out That
Yes.
if other people who see us acknowledging the things that are correct, that are kernels of truth, that helps people get out as well.
Yeah,
Important.
exactly. Because it starts helping you put things into perspective. But when you're being recruited in Scientology, it's practical tools. It's like, I remember one of the first things I learned in Scientology and the problems of work, called personal efficiency, the concept of a stable datum. And in a nutshell, it's like if you're confused, right? Like if you're standing, I think the analogy he gives in the book is if you're standing in the middle of a road and there's traffic moving in all directions and you're a bit confused, to overcome that confusion, find something to focus on that is true and correct, that isn't going to change. So I don't know, find there's a lamppost there, right? Okay, that's not moving. You can focus on that, and from that you can then work out what's going on and sort it out in your head. And you go, okay, that's not moving, so that's your reference point. Okay, so these cars are moving this direction. Okay, these cars moving that direction. So then it helps you figure out and become not confused anymore. And you can apply this in all sorts of situations in life. If there's lots of rumors going around about people, and this person said this person said this, and there's a confusion, well, find a stable datum. What do you know is true from your experience, and work backwards from there. That is a really useful tip that is very helpful to use in life that many people do.
Oh, you'll find it in business seminars all over the place. This stuff that
Exactly.
a lot of the
It's
stuff
not
he
unique to
stole.
Scientology, but it
No,
is something that
Dale
works and is helpful.
Carnegie and Dale Carnegie, and these are some of his he read these books and he really took it to the next level with this Scientology stuff, selling religion. Like he took car sales stuff and applied it to religion, but did it in a very skillful, artful way, and took a whole bunch of other philosophies and kernels of truth and made a religion because he knew that was the way. And he's been quoted, saying, really want to make some money, start a religion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how they get you in, because you do a little course and you get a little practical tip like that helps you, and you think, okay, great. And then you do another course, and over time you've had lots of little bits that help you, and you think, well, so far there's a lot I've read that I don't agree with, but there's a lot
Correct.
I've read that has helped, and so it's not done any
Add the
harm.
personal integrity bit where
Yeah.
they feed you that bullshit in the very beginning. Like you can deny anything. What's not true for you is not true for you.
What's
And so
true for you is
you're
true.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to dig in and find some truth. And you
Yeah.
find some truth. And you're like, yeah, I like this. This is good. This is a workable thing. Like the thing you just said.
Yeah.
And then and then personal integrity comes back, and it's like, they're questioning you and word clearing you and bringing you into the ethics officer. Like, do you fully understand this? And what that really means to me is, do you agree with all of it?
Mm, mm. And that's where Scientology becomes, in my opinion, harmful, because it's
Yes.
a totalitarian belief.
It's extremism. It's
It's
religious
extremist.
extremism.
Yeah, and that's why, as one of the reasons it can become harmful and dangerous, because the workable bits that L. Ron Hubbard didn't necessarily come up with, he just packaged them in a certain way that made sense or whatever.
Yep.
They do work and they're
A
helpful, but
repackager.
they're not, unique Scientology. Um, but when you get in after doing enough of that stuff, you're in a place where it's like, well, actually, you fully believe everything, and everything else is wrong, and this is the only way to help people. And that's where you get the extremism of, any critic or someone who's left Scientology is then an enemy because they want to stop Scientology, and therefore they don't want to help people. They're a bad person. Well, no, someone can leave the church and, just go about their life, and not apply Scientology. That doesn't make them a bad person. There's nothing wrong with taking bits that you like and bits you don't like from many different belief systems, philosophies, whatever. But in
But in
Scientology,
Scientology, they call that squirreling.
exactly, it has to be all or nothing, win or die in the attempt. Literally, is what it says in
Yeah,
policy.
absolutely. So yeah, the personal integrity thing, they feed you that very early to sort of, I think, inoculate you into the idea that you can reject anything. Just
Mm.
take what you need. It's kind of like someone opening their pantry and it's like, hey, you need something here, take what you need. And that's how you feel. It's like, oh shit, like say you're hungry and it's like, oh, okay, I can get some this and that, some this and that. And then they just sort of lock you in there, and that's like
Yeah.
all you got.
And that's one of the
Ever.
hardest things I found in recovery. Like one of the things my therapist told me to do when I first started the whole therapy journey was write down. I did a Venn diagram, right? You know, where you draw the two circles that overlap in the middle, what I agree with, what I don't agree with, and things in the middle that I'm not sure about. And I wrote down every little concept, teaching, policy, everything I could think of in my head that is Scientology, and put it down. Do I agree with that? Do I not agree with that? And just seeing it visually helped me figure out in my head, okay, what do I believe? Who am I? What's my thinking on this? And that really helped me anyway sort it out and start that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, like figuring out what's your opinion, man.
Yeah,
Like that's just like your opinion, man.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because I
I,
ran into some things on staff where it was like it was just what they call in Scientology a ridge. It's where it's an impasse. That's all it is. A ridge you could consider an impasse where there's two people, they have opposing viewpoints, neither one of them is going to budge.
Mhm. Yeah. I want to talk a bit about therapy actually, because you mentioned this earlier
Sure.
about the conflict that you had of like overthinking, psychologists, they're not really helping me, blah, blah, blah. I had a similar thing. We were talking about this yesterday offline. Um, like when you first go and see a therapist, just that is a huge step for a former Scientologist to take because I spent a very long time considering, do I want to try this? Do I not want to try this? What do I think about therapists? Do I, think they're going to hurt me or harm me in any way? What do I believe about them? What is just Scientology speak and what isn't? And all of this. So by the time you decide I'm going to go see a therapist, you've done a whole lot of work in your brain already. And then when you
Yes.
go in, you're still going to be very on edge and nervous. And I remember sitting down and saying like the first thing he said was, okay, what do you want to talk about? And I was like,
What do you
what do you
mean?
mean? Yeah. Because in Scientology auditing, which they call spiritual counseling, it's very driven by the auditor. There's a process, there's a list, you have to do this, it's targeted, there's a result that you try to get, there's a
Right.
formula, it's a
Whole check
very
sheet
structural thing. So to go into
holders.
the last time I was in a room in this sort of scenario with someone, a counselor of some description, talking about me working on myself, the last time I'd done that was an auditor in Scientology. So for him to then say, what do you want to talk about? I was
Mm.
mind blown. I was like, what? No, you're the therapist. You should tell me, what do I need to work on and how. You're the expert. How do I fix what's wrong with me? I
Oh,
don't know
sad
that. That's why I'm
baby.
seeing you. And he just kind of
Shack.
laughed.
Yeah. Shapati baby. Oh, that means poor little baby. It's true though, man. It's like I did similar things. I had a evaluation in 2015, and it came back, and this was an evaluation that yeah, it took place in 2015, and it was a test that I had to take uh, to see where I was at on some scale or something. I don't know, but it said that but it's a test that you take. Just it's not a long term. It's not like a diagnosis or anything. It's like let's see where this person's at mentally because I was kind of going crazy leaving Scientology, and I was going through a divorce at the time too. So I was double going crazy. Anyone who's just been through a divorce will tell you, you know. So uh I came back as psychotic deviate, not deviant, but deviate. And there's this whole scale and stuff he
What does
explained.
that mean?
You'd have to Google it. A psychotic deviate is sort of like a state. So and maybe there are people who have permanent states of that. I don't know, but the the process then was terrifying because he's telling me I'm a psychotic I heard deviant
Mm.
is what I heard. But he corrected me. He was like, "No, it's psychotic deviate. You're not a psychotic deviant." I was when he told me that, like I was willing. Here's where I was with the willingness in working with the therapist. I was willing to go do this test, and and I did all, because that you probably would have been too, because you're like, okay, cool, here's a formula, here's a thing to take, and like an OCA almost, which is the Oxford Capacity Analysis Personality Test they use in the missions and orgs. So that they use to sort of mystify you and pull your ruins and stuff. And so the test results said psychotic, deviate, and I just kind of lost it. And I was like, what do you mean psychotic, deviate? So he explained it all, and it made sense. It was a state that I was in because of everything that was going on, essentially, like all of that turmoil and conflict and divorce and not knowing where my kids were, all in a span, and leaving Scientology, all in a very short span of time, created this storm. And I was also deprogramming, leaving, throwing away ideas from Scientology, learning again, like you said, what is my viewpoint? What do I believe? And it sort of threw me into this psychotic, deviate state. And as I continued to do therapy with other people, and this guy was like a state tester, I had to pay $300-400 for this test. And as time went on, I've seen 4 therapists in 7 years, and I've been with the group that I'm with for the last 3 or 4. It's progressively gotten like there's been little things that each person can help me with, and right now the person I'm with is like pretty well up to speed on what I've been through, what my family's been through. So I think that we'll be able to work together for a while. But there have been stages for therapy for me where I was like, okay, this person is not really going to be able to help me anymore, and that's okay, because not some some therapists are just there to get people to a certain point, you know. So, saying that you've been, I think it's what I'm really trying to say is that it's not taboo to have multiple therapists, to go through different people, to change therapists, to find someone that fits better for you. I think that's actually really important. If I had to impart any advice to people looking for therapists, to think of it like a relationship, and how do you really want to have a relationship with this person? Yeah.
I think one of the big things for me was the time it takes to recover. And in Scientology, because you're programmed to be like, now, product, sell books, get the stats in, we need to grow, expand. And even in auditing, it's like, right, we're going to go in session, we're going to do this, and we're going to get you to this level, and we're going to move you up the bridge, and blah, blah, blah. In therapy, the biggest thing for me was like going in with all of this. I've got to the place where I've realized what I'm going through, and I've realized I need some help, and I've gone to therapy. So like, let's tackle this. And learning that stuff takes time. I remember my therapist said once,
It's devastating sometimes.
he said, Alex, I can tell that you are in a rush. You're like, you want to get this done. It's a matter of urgency, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I want you to understand the majority of work that is done in therapy is actually in the week between our sessions. Right. It's not like you're going to leave this session and feel this way, and then you don't think about it till next week. You do the work, and probably without even realizing it, over the week. And once he said that, I was like, wow, amazing. And that's when I started thinking, okay, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Right. And every
Yes.
little thing that comes up that I'm like, wow, is that a Scientology thing that I'm doing? How do I feel about that? What are my thoughts? Challenging myself every single day. I'm enjoying it now because I'm like learning more about myself.
Absolutely. And it's almost, yesterday when we were talking, there were a couple of things. This is one of them that you mentioned yesterday, but there are things that that are like mimicking, like I see in your experience what I experienced. which is great. It's really cool because that means that there's progress. That's fucking amazing, man. Congratulations.
That's what I love about this YouTube SPTV thing, is that like hearing other people talk through their experiences has been a huge help to me, because it's like, wow, I recognize that my story is wildly different from this person. They
Right.
worked in a different org in a different country and they had a different family setup. Nothing about their story is similar, other than their feelings, their emotions, what they've gone through, their recovery, which is almost identical to mine in this way.
Isn't that
And like
weird?
recognizing that has actually been a form of therapy in itself.
Yeah.
Just hearing like this discussion we're having,
Right.
other people might be watching this and go, I had a similar experience.
Oh yeah, the SPTV community and the Never Ends and everyone from all of the coercive control groups, including but not limited to Scientology, the LDS Church, the Jehovah's Witnesses. You can go on and on and on, all the way up to the Vatican, and you will find that everyone has these things in common when they're in recovery, because it's it's abuse, right? And to recover, now everyone's journey is different. People's experiences are different, but the things that happen, the worst abuses are, pretty well documented. And they are in the worst of cases, in the very worst cases, like the extremism, where people just genocide people. And, someone said, maybe it was Tom DeVoe, I don't remember who said it, but if they could, they would, the Scientologist extremism, right? If they had control over the world, what do you
my
think
God.
they would do to
I
you and
asked
I?
ChatGPT, right, what a world or a country would be like if it was
Boy.
run by Scientology, right? Like if Scientology, because Scientology, excuse
Bless
me,
you.
thank you. Scientologists believe that Scientology is not just a belief system, it's a way of life, and it's the only way to make a sane planet. And it's very much written in the scripture that like Scientology justice and ethics is better, more effective, and more powerful than any judicial legal system on the planet. So this is the best way to run a country, run a civilization. So Scientology would love it if they had their own little country, right, and ran it how they want to. So I asked ChatGPT what a country or a world would be like if it was run by
Do
Scientology.
you have the page open? Because now I am like waiting on bated breath. I want to hear this.
I don't have it. I could try and find it and send it to you later. But it basically said it would be like North Korea.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that surprises any viewers, but it doesn't surprise me, because like what I was going to say is that the question that I posed was, what do you think they would do to people like you and I? What does North Korea do to people that go against the state?
Well, they put them in a hard prison labor camp, just like Scientology are currently already doing with the RPF or whatever it's now called.
Yeah, whatever it is, the whole RPF, maybe a mission somewhere in the middle of nowhere where someone's just like basically isolated, and we just don't know. Like the circumstances and the environments that they can create with the massive wealth and real estate that they have are immense. So there's probably just about every kind of screwed up situation you can imagine happening currently with people. And the Aftermath Foundation, so far as I've seen, has impressed me, because before there was, like I said, there was Mike Render, Marty Rathbun, Leah Remini was about to do her show, which was huge, amazing. And I can't watch it. I get too damn emotional. But
That's okay. That's okay, man.
yeah, in my own good time, right? So
take your time. There's no rush.
I just get so, like, even just because I do editing and video stuff, like I get emotional even just from the artistic side of the presentation of the story. I'm like,
Yes,
oh
I
my
get
God,
that.
the way they shot that. Oh,
I'm the same. I'm the same. And with music as well, like just hearing a
yeah,
piece of
sound
music,
design.
I could just just the way the chord hit me at that time with like the
Yeah.
certain reverb and the type of instrument. I'm like, oh, I feel an emotion just from like that C major chord or something.
Going Clear used a theremin a lot
Mm,
in the sound design,
mm.
and the sound design was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, those things get me emotional. The hell were we talking about just before then?
You're
Oh,
talking about the Aftermath Foundation and how that exists
yeah.
to help people, right?
So yeah, before that, it was, there was no, it was like GoFundMe's. It was
Mm,
like, help, let's get this person out.
mm,
I had one. There was a couple other people who had one. Sandrine Litchfield was in Clearwater. She got one to help her get out of Florida, and the that was kind of untenable, and it wasn't as efficient as it could have been.
mm.
So
It's
you
kind of
know,
like there's a sense of comfort now because anybody, wherever you are in the world, if you are in Scientology, you're a staff member, you're in the Sea Org, even if you're a public and you need help, right, getting out, you don't have to worry about fundraising, doing this and that. Like, help is available. The Aftermath Foundation exists. They have the money and the resources to be able to help you, and they will, pay for your flights to reunite with your family. They will help you write a resume and help find you a job. They'll pay for your accommodation until you can get on your feet. Like they give you those
and
basic human necessities so that you don't have to worry about that
and
stuff
they're
and you can
familiar
just
with it.
focus on getting better. Yeah, and they
Th
know because
they've
they've
done
been
this
through it.
before, clearly, because 'cause I'm
Exactly.
gonna tell you, there's no way there's this many SPTV channels without the Aftermath Foundation, so
Mm,
fucking A. Like,
absolutely. And if anyone wants to support the Aftermath Foundation, you can go to the aftermathfoundation.org, and there's a link in the description of every video that I put in. And they help people. You can volunteer, and there's a big database, wherever you are in the world. If someone is in, the middle of, I don't know, the countryside in Germany or Italy or something, they'll look on the database and they'll find the nearest person and give them a call and say, hey, can you go and help pick this person up? Or,
because you have to do
what
it
can you
you have to do
provide?
it all like spy style, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's all
if you've
undercover.
watched Going Clear, the way Spanky Taylor escaped through a trunk of a car, you know?
Yeah. It's
And even then it was like this weird, it was almost like this World War II Germany situation where she's being smuggled and they almost get caught and they almost get caught again.
But
And
also, this is where the Aftermath Foundation goes one step further because it's not like once she'd escaped in the boot of that car out of the base, right? Well, then what, right? She doesn't have the
right.
money and resources. She doesn't have somewhere to stay. She doesn't have a mobile phone. She doesn't have any more than the cash she's got in her pocket. So that's what the Aftermath
That's what
Foundation
the
do. They don't
aftermath.
just
Yep.
help you get out. They help you. They give you all of the necessities
Step
so
by
that
step.
you're safe and you're secure and you don't have to worry about anything other than your recovery and your journey and what the next step is. You don't have to worry about that. And that's why I think the Aftermath Foundation is so great, which I think is a good kind of thing to bring it to a close on, I suppose. We'll do some questions and stuff in a sec, but was there anything else you wanted to add, Marcus?
Yeah, on the off chance that there are anyone who is currently on staff or in the SO, uh, hearing this, whether on a replay or live, it may seem really far fetched that could be possible for you, but uh, this has occurred multiple times, and the people who are helping everyone out have a lot of experience and expertise and I'm sure hired experts to help conduct these sorts of sensitive operations because
Mm,
it's sensitive. So I just
yeah.
wanted to sort of give a little bit of confidence to those who on the off chance there might be someone listening,
And
make
and
the call.
also and also the Aftermath Foundation, they're not in the business of convincing people to leave, right? Because that's a huge thing. Is not, they don't want to try and talk you into leaving. They are just going to help you when you make that decision.
Right.
So if you say, "Hey, I need help," they will be there. They'll get you out. They're not going to try and convince you or change your mind on anything, right? That's your journey to go on,
Yeah,
and
you
that's
still
your
love LRH stuff,
yeah.
and if
That's
you think
fine.
David Miscavige is a douche in printing books, like, I mean, hey, I was right there with you.
Mm.
Yeah, great
And
point.
also, there's a huge network of us out there that are happy to help. Say, for example, you don't necessarily want to leave or escape. You just want to speak to someone who's been through something similar. You know, anyone on SPTV, I'm sure, is more than happy to speak to someone confidentially. You know, anyone can email me, hello@apostatealex.com. I'm always happy to hear people, talk to them, and answer questions, tell you my experience if that's what you want to hear. I'm never going to convince someone to leave. But if you don't want to leave, you just want to get another opinion, get in touch. And that's something I'm working on as well. I'm setting up a non-profit here in the UK called Cause Over Life, which has been in the works for about 6 months. I'm hoping to launch by the end of the year. If you go to causeoverlife.org, I've just set up like a launch page at the moment, splash page. And the whole point is that's providing the help the Aftermath Foundation doesn't help. So it's a sense of community, it's resources, and it's linking to different websites and different books and things. And so to help you on that journey of figuring out where you're at, and if you want to speak to someone who's been through a similar experience, that's what Cause Over Life will do, is put you in touch with a peer support
Oh, that's
network
great.
group. So that's what I'm working on at the moment, because I think that's
Yeah.
really needed.
Oh, it is, because I can tell you I've done it. I've probably spent more time talking to ex-Scientologists off the air than
Yeah.
on the air.
I always say like 90% of what goes on in SPTV is not on YouTube.
Right.
This is
Right.
just a small proportion. But look, Marcus, this has been great. Let's get through some questions,
Sure.
because I know there's a couple other live streams going on at the moment, so I don't want to keep everyone from everything else that's happening tonight. Amy Jean had a question. Did anyone lose friends over trying to drag them into Scientology?
Yeah. I lost there was a guy that came to California with us. And he was gone within 10 days. And we didn't really see much or hear much from him for many, many years. And then there was another friend who I was playing music with before we moved, who we stayed in contact via mail, snail mail, and was did a search and discovery and found out he was a SP. And I wrote him a really, really vulgar, obscene, terrible letter, and didn't speak to him for 20 years. I'm lucky in that his wife reached out and at one point 20 years later and said, "Hey, Will wants your email." So yes, it has happened for sure.
Yeah, because ultimately you think you're doing the right thing. You think you're helping that person, and
Yep.
unfortunately that sometimes isn't what actually happens. And it's not until you leave that you realize what the actual consequences of your actions. And that's quite empowering. It's hard, but it's good to be able to look back and be accountable and say, hey, look, I did this, it was wrong, and I'm sorry. And some people will want to hear it, some people won't, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
at least you understand that it came from a good place. You weren't doing something, you weren't intentionally trying to harm someone or whatever. You thought that by doing that you were helping them. And for me,
I knew
that
I
makes me
wasn't
feel
helping
okay
him
with
with
it.
that freaking letter. I knew at that time I wasn't helping him with that letter. I was just doing it because there was so much pressure.
Mm.
And
And you had no other option.
I don't feel like at the time in my head I did. No.
Yeah, exactly. Leo, I'm watching in 2x speed. Marcus, man, I feel like I relate to you. I relate so much to you. We even have the same long hair. It's good to meet you. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah. Likewise, Leo.
I wish I had long hair. I'm
Well,
very
I
quickly
grow it
losing
for
my
all the
hair.
people who can't, I got the nice
That's so selfless of you.
uh, it is, okay? Like, I mean, honestly, this hair is a bitch to take care of. It don't look that great right now, but like, you do the product and stuff. When I was on staff, it was down to my ass.
Was it? Wow.
Yeah, it was that long. Yeah.
Wow. Jeez. Bob tries in
Barb.
Theta has just such a unique life story. I cannot recommend his channel enough.
Well,
Yes,
thanks, Barb.
if you're watching this, go and subscribe to Marcus. In Theta is his channel. I just put a link in the description. Show him
I'm a
some
little
SBTV
weird.
love. Everyone's a little bit weird.
Okay, I'm a
It's
lot
fine.
weird.
Maybe that's why we get on so well. We both are. Leo also asked, Marcus, what year did you root out of COS? Sorry if I missed it.
I routed. No, I didn't even say. You actually used the correct term. I routed out. I was routed out in 2004, and I left Hollywood in 2005. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. And last question. Ideal Borg, aka CEO Bilf. Questions. Are Scientology missions in relatively far-flung areas typically run by staff, or is it more like the mission holders show up a few evenings a week? Great question.
Yeah, it is a great question because it varies. It can vary wildly. There were missions that I knew of that had mission holders that rarely occasioned their mission, and they also allowed a lot of libs, which is what we called them, and which means
Liberties.
freedom.
Yeah.
Like people did, like the mission wasn't run all week long. They had like 3 days they would do. Then there were missions like Ventura and Melrose that were open all the time, and that's the culture that we were in. And so when I looked at other missions, I would be like jealous. I'd be like, man, they get 3 days off and they can go and do stuff with their friends.
Missions are much bigger in the US as well. Like when I was director of public book sales at London, weirdly, one of my territories was Malta, right? So to give people a quick understanding, there's class 5 orgs, which are the city level orgs like London, Berlin, Tokyo, wherever, New York. That's where you join Scientology. They deliver up to a certain level on the bridge. And then above that, you have the advanced organizations where you do the OT levels and learn about Xenu and all of that stuff. And then underneath the class 5 orgs are the missions. And the idea is these are like smaller groups, grassroots little communities, and they feed people into the class 5 orgs and they feed into the AOs, the advanced orgs, and it's kind of like a journey like that. So the class 5 orgs are over the missions. So I was running as a teenager, right? Director of public book sales. I had territories. I was in charge of all of the book sales in London. And to be honest, a large part of the UK, because we were the only ideal org in the country at the time. There's now Birmingham, but pretty much all the book sales in the UK were coming through me. And also Malta. That's an entire country I was in charge of, right? And there was a little mission there. And I remember calling up and being like, hey, how many books have you sold today? I'm the new director of public book sales. And they were like, oh, this week you sold like 2 books. And I'm like, 2 books in the whole country? What's going on? Then I realized the mission was literally a lady's living room in her house.
Yeah.
And it's registered as the mission. And she says, officially, we have a meeting that's like a 2 hours. The course room is open once a week. 2 hours on a Tuesday or something. In reality, no one shows up. It's not open. It's just their living room.
Convenient place to traffic people.
It allows Scientology to have a base in the country. It allows them to have another address and another number on the stat of number of orgs and buildings and so on. And another organization they can use to, like you say, traffic people and move money.
Yeah, it's no organization. Well. It's just it's a criminal. It's essentially a criminal safe house.
Yeah,
precisely. It's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So missions are vastly different. Some are like that, and some are just like a church of Scientology, like an ideal org. There are ideal missions now, which are like, big buildings that, just look like a normal church. So there's a whole spectrum on there.
But yeah, Baton Rouge turned into a class 5 org. When I went there, it was just a mission. Ventura never became. Actually, I think they did do an org update, but the missions were always a thorn in the side of Continental Liaison, the money people. You had to get that check there on time, or they would start really putting a lot of pressure on the mission holders. Which I'm not going to pretend I know what any of that entails, but Tom and Kathy Steiner seem to run it very much like businesses.
And back in the day, you could make a lot of money running missions. Because you weren't a commission off all the sales.
They learned that at the Riverside mission and worked with at Flag with the supervisors that were there in the 70s, along with Diana Hubbard, who got some courses approved and also helped to establish SMI Int to collect the money, because the guy that they were working for in Riverside was making so much money, and he was like an independent investor. He's like, oh, I love this Scientology stuff, money. And Hubbard was not happy about that. Diana was not happy about that. So they basically, Sea Org showed up and like, we're taking everyone. And some people were like, we're not going to Flag. But the ones that did were trained and all this stuff, and ultimately bring the paycheck to CLO.
Yeah, which is the Continental Liaison Office, right?
Yep.
All the money flows up lines. Even here in the UK, all the money goes from all of the orgs here over to international management, where Scientology is tax exempt, which means they can evade scrutiny. It's the opposite here in the UK. If you're a charity, you have to publish your accounts, and you are held publicly accountable for where your money goes and what it does to help people. It's the opposite in America. And that's why there's so much focus on the tax exempt status in the US, because it allows them to get away with a lot. One little plug from me. I've got a website, Scientologybusiness.com, where I'm talking about the money and where it's all going and how Scientology operates in the UK, Europe, Commonwealth. So if you're interested in that side of things, go and check out Scientologybusiness.com. And Marcus, I'd love to have you on again soon and continue this discussion, because I think it's important. I think it's important to talk about recovery and real stories. And
Absolutely. And I wish I could talk more about the EMDR stuff. I'm currently going through it, and there's certain topics that I can't discuss that are really actually kind of interesting and cool in recovery. But
I'm sure with time that will come.
Yeah. And I'd love to talk to Chris about it too, because he knows a lot about that stuff too. So
that'll be great. I'd love to see you on Chris's channel. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, Marcus, thank you for joining. Anyone watching, give us a like, a share, subscribe, a comment. That helps push the video out to more people. And do the same for Marcus in Theta. Show him some love. Let's get him the 1,000 subscribers he needs. And we will see you guys on the next one.